wrong in that, and why would it be detrimental to society? And here I couldn't see any major points. I thought about looking at what could be some of the things, some arguments that I could think of, to the. So my point is, of course, it's not detrimental to the society. So I was thinking, what could be some points why people feel that it could be detrimental to society? So one thing is maybe because it doesn't have the same legal protection as a formal marriage. That could be one thing, and so that again, when I tried to Google a little bit, again I'm not an expert in this area, so this is just my little bit of Googling and trying to understand things. What I understand is even though there are not things like inheritance and so on, still a long-term live-in relationship can be considered for certain legal protection. And an argument, for example, how about domestic abuse and so on? So that is also recognized, seems to be recognized in the law. So yeah, overall, I think it's not detrimental to the society.
Okay.
That's from my side. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Arun. Yeah, Venkat.
On the whole, I think it could actually be beneficial to society given certain assumptions. We have to, assuming that a live-in relationship is intended to lead to marriage at some point, and the couple in question are relatively young. I mean, there are many possible scenarios. You could think of an 80-year-old couple being in a live-in relationship. I'm not really considering outliers like that. But a typical live-in relationship where the couple intends to get married at some point, but want to have a live-in relationship, I think it's beneficial to society for many reasons. One is compatibility is important in a relationship, and a live-in relationship without any commitment allows them to test their compatibility with one another. And especially since society is moving, appears to be moving away from arranged marriage towards marriages based on love and compatibility, I think on the whole it's a beneficial thing to society. There are bound to be some disadvantages, as in everything, and nothing is perfect. But on the whole, I think it's beneficial to society.
Okay. Okay. Thanks a lot, Venkatesh. Yeah. Shreya.
Yes. So first, I would like to say, Arun, that age is also a factor while a person is in a live-in relationship. It's not only the adults who go into it, because today the society is kind of influenced by more like Western culture, especially if I only talk about India. And also even minor can get involved into these, and also in India, a state like also Arun mentioned this thing, so I'm uh, giving the reply that in India, a state like Haryana don't support live-in relationships. Also, when Venkatesh said many times that it is beneficial for the society, live-in relationships, no, I strongly disagree to that point that it's beneficial, because it also gives various negative impacts, and not everyone who are in live-in relationships today wants to get married in future. There are some people who also get into live-in relationship just to manage their finance, or maybe just to stay together because they cannot, they really are really want to stay together. So otherwise, live-in relationship, I don't think it's much beneficial, because because not every relation live-in are leading to marriages. So those which are not leading to marriages, is it will really lead to a really toxic, I would say, toxic environment. Or toxic relationship. So and marriages, in other hand, if we talk about live-in relationship and then marriages, would not be a good thing, because marriages are supposed to be so pure. It's supposed to be arranged or maybe even love, but even but this topic, live-in relationship can also have an alternative. Like for example, if a person really wants to test each other, they can also stay in different homes, and always like maybe if they are meeting every day, they can know about each other. But live-in relationships, I would definitely disagree.
Okay, Shreya. Just curious, like you mentioned that it's detrimental in it's not beneficial. Can you explain what some examples as to like where it can go wrong? Like what is the actual detriment here? Who's suffering
Okay.
out of this?
A mental, I would say first would be really mental problems. Like for example, if I agree, okay, if suppose if I am in a live-in, so I agree that okay, this rules are supposed to be followed in this house. Like suppose this time, this will be the time of cooking, this will be the time of eating, and this will be the, and if the other person is not following with the rules, after sometimes there's gonna be a clash that this is not happening, this is not happening. But again, at the other hand, if the marriage is involved in this, with marriage a sense of responsibility comes in, a sense of understanding comes in. There's many things in case of marriage, so it's better if it it's better if we don't stay in live-in relation. And also the abuse, the sexual abuse or any kind of abuse can be there, and also a girl can definitely file a case against a boy even if the boy hasn't done anything. And also the Indian government, it actually supports a lot to girls these days. Even if they are wrong, they sometimes, in some cases, not all the cases, in some cases the boy just land to problems just because the girl has a girl has said something, like girl has accused the person of something even if the person hasn't done anything.
Okay, I see the problems that you're talking about, but I don't see that link between this and then live-in relation. This can happen outside of live-in relationships as well. Like there's always like these fake complaints of like abuse, like or abuse actually happening. All these things happen inside and outside of live-in relationships. So
Yes.
where is the exact problem with live-in relationships?
Yes, the problem also happens outside, but the percentage that happens in during live-in relationship is little high. And also, like, since the if the girl goes and complains, it would be sure that okay, this might have happened because they are staying in live-in relationships. And also, like, a live-in relationship is kind of it's like if adult people are staying in live-in, it can give a wrong influence to the one who are still in minority, like who are still not adults, and maybe in future they want to stay in live-in relationship. Not all live-in relationships are really good.
Okay, Shreya, maybe if you can find some sources on the figure that you talked about, like the percentage or something you mentioned that these abuses are more common in live-in relationships. If you have any sources, it would be great if you can put it in the chat.
Yeah,
I'll move
sure.
on to the next person. Vishal, I think you had your hand raised and then you lowered it. I'm not sure if you still have something to say. I think you look visibly like you have a lot of things to say. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Raghav. Actually, I I was listening to all the first three participants, but I agree with Shreya. That's why I raised my hand.
I see. Okay.
So there are few points I would like to add in order to elaborate what Shreya is saying. So, in my opinion, live-in relationship and marriage, they are particularly two different set of institution. But when we are discussing the topic on this, it is detrimental to the society or not. So I agree to Shreya. So there are some points that when you actually get into the live-in relationship, it is basically you are going on a test or a trial or an experiment, right? This is what most of the couple think or decide when they get into relationship, that hey, let's live together and see how things works, that our living style on a day on day basis, are we able to tolerate each other or not. Since the tolerance happens, so this basically is a deterioration towards the marriage, that your thought or your agreement towards the marriage deteriorates, which means that you find yourself more comfortable in the relationship, the live-in relationship, and you want to now go away from the concept of the marriage. That's why it is detrimental to the society, because marriage brings in the strong or the lawful morality and the ethics into you, that you will be more careful when you put into a marriage, not in a live-in relationship, because it gives you a comfort level to simply walk out with without any explanation or anything. In marriage, something, it puts you into a legal
Accountability.
morality and the ethics.
You're talking about accountability. There's more accountability in marriage.
Yeah, because of the legality into it, and then the permanent thing,
There's some
when you
security.
get married, the secular thing, it gives you some kind of feeling, or it instilled those culture and the condition into you when you get married, that you have now into a sacred bond. Because all marriages are in a very same way. When you get married, so what you want to do is you want to have Almighty as a witness. So this is also one of the impact. When you get into a live-in relationship, you don't really involve people. You want to do it secretly. Most of the time, you do not even tell your parents something which is happening secretly. So I don't think so. It is a step towards the freedom, or being free or feel free. It is not, because you're not involving people. You want to do it very discreet way. And when your parents get to know, then this problems start to happening. I have my own example of one of my friend. She was into a relationship for 3 years, and then all of a sudden her parents got to know. So they came to their place where they were living for 3 years, and her mother and father, they started giving taunts to this girl. And I'm sorry, the boy's mother and father, they came into the house. So they started giving taunts to her, and then she had to go somewhere. So this boy wanted to just drop her somewhere, and the mother said, "You never did this to me." So this is the problem. This is basically the problem, is that all of a sudden this problem arises, and then these guys both broke up because things started going in a different direction altogether.
But do you fault the live-in relationship for it, or the resistance to the living relationship for this? Because the resistance came from the parents who didn't agree to that, so they created problems. If maybe they didn't have so much resistance, it could have gone well for them.
Yeah, this could have gone well for them. So going back to from where I started, that I think these are two different kind of institution, live-in relationship and the marriage. Because I know somebody else also who is in a relationship for 8 years, but now the boy is very adamant not to get married. He's saying that I don't want to get into those marriage things. I don't believe in that. So maybe this guy must be believing sometimes back, but over the period of 8 years, he has built up that new concept that this live-in relationship is better than the marriage, because he must be seeing his friends and other people who are into marriage, and they feel stuck or blocked somewhere. So that's why this gives you more comfort space, and without any legality, it is that you feel free and you just walk out. And one partner is just left toxic and then into depression, and what Shreya was saying, that many things can happen, and it can spoil one partner's life forever.
Okay, so I think just to summarize, I think so far we've heard some points that are saying that live-in relationships are beneficial. Venkatesh has represented that view, and others have said that there's no accountability, there's no security in live-in relationships, and there's also like psychological things that happen more probably in live-in relationships. Okay, so let's hear from other people. I think Shreya, you also raised your hand, but let me listen from Arun first, and then we can get back to you. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, just to add on to that. So again, I'm supporting, I don't think that live-in relationship is detrimental. So I think here maybe my thought process is definitely there is a cost that the live-in couples have to shoulder because it is not recognized legally, and maybe society-wise also the way it is seen. There is some difficulty involved for the couple. But one thing that I strongly feel is the way things are currently should not dictate, how things should be or ought to be. So once we identify that, something is good, then we can take some steps so that we can reach a better place. So yeah, in that aspect, I definitely, understand the points that Vishal and Shreyas put forward, and thanks a lot. Those are some very good points. But overall, when I think about it, it seems like it's more based on an attitude that there is a certain stigma attached to it, and that's the reason why these things come into picture. That was my overall thought.
Okay, just to set some more context onto the topic, like I think that live-in relationships are a new concept in this country, in our country, but predominantly most cultures, you know, like where there is a certain dating present, you know, like if you go to Western countries, there's like, you know, people date. It's very common for like young adults to be in a relationship without any commitments. But in India, like the concept of relationship itself is sort of like not so prevalent. You know, there are people who are in secret relationships. If you go to, like, you know, people, anybody who's dating somebody who's got a boyfriend or a girlfriend, they usually, the parents don't know. Usually, like, it's a secretive thing. When they go out, like, you know, they kind of cover their faces. They don't want to be seen. The relationship itself is a kind of like, there is a stigma around it. People expect that a good boy or a good girl is supposed to like go into marriage without ever being in any kind of relationship, and this marriage is recognized by their families, and they're all coming together. This is the traditional path, like, you know, the path that most people take. Now, relationship itself is a kind of like a stigmatic thing, and I think that we need to discuss, you know, whether it is detrimental for our culture for there to be more dating, or is it actually beneficial? Because there are many points here. First of all, you know, like, you have to understand, like, we have to come to the acceptance of the biological reality that we all like grow up, and some of our years where we are most, you know, like, sexually excited tend to be the teenage years and the younger years of life. And we're very curious. Everybody is curious, and you know, when you put them in a situation where they cannot have any sexual outlet, they don't have any healthy outlet where there is a safe environment, this itself causes like a lot of psychological trauma, right? A lot of people, like, when, like, every day on the screen, on TVs, you find yourself like being exposed to all this, you know, sexually exciting content, you know, like all these like item songs, Bollywood item songs, or like even like mainstream media has like a lot of these sexually exciting content. And when you're not in a relationship, like, there's no outlet. What are you supposed to do? And more and more people are like, you know, standing down against like people getting married at a young age. So again, like, you know, you're delaying the marriage age, and you don't have any like acceptable sexual outlet. So obviously, like, you know, like, relationship itself is kind of like is more of a new thing, and you can argue that it's a necessary thing. You know, maybe if they did have like a healthy outlet for sexual desires, they would actually be in a better psychological state. It would be more normal to them, and they'd be exposed to the other genders, and there'd be a lot more exposure and you know, like, exchange between the sexes, right? Now, so that is, you could say that is one argument for it, to say that, like, you know, it's actually beneficial for there to be relationships, and especially live-in relationships where they can actually see the compatibility, like Venkatesh was arguing. But there's also like a detriment to that side of the argument where, like, you know, if you go to the Western countries, there is a lot of divorces that happen. There's a lot of you know, unexpected pregnancies. Young people who are in colleges or students, they get pregnant because they're in a relationship, and they're you know, they're having an unexpected baby or something. And there's a lot more insecurity in relationships. So that's the other side of like a prevalence of high level of like these you know, like non-marriage, non-formal relationships. So I just wanted to set the context, like saying that these are the different playing fields, and we have to also recognize that relationships themselves are kind of new in India. So with that context set, like, I'd like to go to the next person, Yashwant. Yashwant, can you unmute yourself and speak?
Hi, Raghav,
Yeah.
and hi, Arun, Venkatesh, Vishal, Shreya, and Vaibhav. That's all. So, good morning, everyone. So, I would like to break down the word living relationship, and I would like to go it in a raw manner. To give you a short idea, my thought of way is to break it down in as much as simple possible way, so that it can be understandable for even uneducated people, or less, to think less, to think as much less as possible. So since the word says relationship, so what's there in relationship? Why does a person need a relationship? Either he's a man or she is a woman. So it is either to support emotionally or physically or in some other way. But somehow in this country where we live, we notice that, and we establish the procedure called manager or vivah to support each other, irrespective of their thought process. And it has evolved into, in many ways, even though it has a book or certain set of rules to follow. Few may break them, few may follow them. And few has led a life up to 50 or 60 years, and they felt few lost their partners, and they found that marriage is not going to help them in a way to lead the rest of the life. So they may have thought, actually living relationship is not just a Western word, to be precise. It is being brought down or showcased in that way. I can't say that I'm totally true. Sometimes I may conflict my own words, but when I organize them in a proper way, I'll be able to properly explain to you. So coming to the point, so live-in relationships are to support each other. If they are set with proper rules, it may not be detrimental to society. But few who are at engages involved in this sort of things out of their infactual needs or emotional needs, or to be precise, physical needs at that age, unable to control their hormones or their state of minds at their age, it leads to problems and becomes detrimental to the society. But for few people who are fully matured and aware of what they are doing, it's going to help them to lead their life normally without affecting the society properly. Even relationship is not open for everyone around the country, or it may even few are matured and well independent at younger ages too. So it may help them to understand their partner and lead their life much more safer way throughout their lifetime. So it helps younger ones too in that way. I cannot blame the younger ones totally. And this is my point of view, to be precise. I have a lot more to say, but I would like to cut it now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Yashwant. Yeah, Venkatesh, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I fail to understand how society is harmed by two individuals deciding to exercise their right to try each other out as human beings, right? Some of the criticism of live-in relationships as detrimental to society comes from the expectation that society has the right to dictate to people how they should live. I deny that society has such a right. Two individuals, in a free country, in a free society, two individuals should have the right to, experiment with themselves and with each other, so long as they are not causing harm to anyone, but themselves, and try it out. So if you look at where India was and how we are evolving, it wasn't so long ago when people, a man and a woman, a boy and a girl used to get married without even having seen each other. Was that a healthy situation for society to be in? There may still be places where it's happening. That was very unhealthy. At least in the cities and in somewhat progressive communities, we have evolved to the point where consent is required from the bride and the groom before they decide to get married. Even their parents will not go through with a marriage to which their children do not consent. This is the next step in that evolution, where two people decide that they like each other or love each other enough to move in with each other and try out the relationship and see how it works. It may work or it may not work. If it does not work, it's unfortunate, but then there are many marriages that don't work out either. And once you're married, there is less of an avenue for escape than if you're in a live-in relationship, where you can actually walk away without any damage being done. So I think that it's a progressive step, and people who are in live-in relationships in defiance of society's expectations are actually doing all of us a great favor by moving society in the direction in which it needs to be moved and taking personal risks along with it. So on the whole, I think it's a very good thing, no matter which way you look at it. What changes is if they have children, either intended or unintended. People in live-in relationships, once they have children, they have to accept the fact that they are now committed to each other, whether they like it or not. They have responsibility for a child, and then the whole situation, the whole debate moves in a different direction. But again, with those qualifications, no children, they're consenting adults. I think this is nothing but a good thing. I do wish, to address a point that Vishal brought up earlier. I do wish that they would have the courage to openly defy their parents instead of concealing it from their parents. I understand why they would do it, right? We're not all heroes, but I do wish that they would openly defy their parents and tell them, this is what I want to do and this is what I'm going to do. And if you don't like it, fine, that's your problem. If they had the courage to do that, also they would have nothing but support from me. Thank you.
But Venkatesh, have you heard of the stories where like these kind of people have different boyfriends or girlfriends, and then the parents will come and like behead both of them or one of them or whatever. These kind of things happen in this country, right?
Yes, I know. I know. And if the parents are prone to such extreme reactions, then you're better off not telling them. But then you see, you can't conceal it from your parents forever. At some point, you have to tell them. Then what exactly is the plan, right? You can't get into a situation with no plan at all. And if your parents are such violent people that they will actually kill you for falling in love, then I don't know. That's a very, very difficult scenario, right? But I don't think that not telling them is the solution either, right? Because sooner or later they're going to find out.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I do want to focus on this one point of children coming into the picture. When I made the point for there is an argument to be made for it to be detrimental. There is there is a certain emotional security and kind of like a legal binding nature to marriage, which sort of like also brings more security to the children. Like if every unhappy couple like kind of split away because they're unhappy, there would be so many children who grow up in like dysfunctional families or like single parent homes. It's obviously like more more beneficial for a child to like grow up in a happy family which has like like a healthy atmosphere and also both parents present, than compared to like just like single parent household, which can be kind of like it can have its own I mean there are it's obviously more beneficial. Like we can maybe like there's arguments to be made against that. Maybe somebody would say that it's not as necessary for both parents to be for it to be a healthy environment for a child. But I think that it's that, and with marriage that environment is more guaranteed than in live-in relationships. So that point can also be made, but I just wanted to mention that. Vishal.
Thanks, Raghav. So, I mean, many points came in here around the clock from Venkatesh and Yashwant and also Raghav. So, I think the last I remember from Venkatesh that why is it harmful to the society if you are into a live-in relationship? See, the first point I want to make here is this live-in relationship is not the condition or the culture of particularly this country, Hindustan or India. Because if you talk about this country always have been following the marriage institution as a religious practice, that they have made a setup of the society that this is how the society will work and people agree to it. And the live-in relationship is a very concept, very much concept of the freedom. So freedom is freedom from and freedom for. So freedom, both of them are quite different. One comes from within, and then one is for the people that who are around you. So marriage is somehow somewhat like that for the people you have to do it. That's one of the example is the schooling, that you have to go to the school because you are living in this society. Everybody goes to this school, CBSE or ICSE. You got to do it. So it is a freedom that when you go, you are free to choose a subject and etc. But still, it is for the society, or this freedom is for, not from within, right? So live-in relationship is probably, I feel, when people does that, maybe they just do it because it sound cool, without getting into any bond or kind of a marriage restriction, because it's a group of people who try to be in a secret relationship, or do not try to tell. Yes, I agree, there are people who involve their parents and say that, hey, you know what, we are getting into the live-in relationship and we want to test it out, our temperament, or our psychological reactions to each other, and how do we live together. These are very rare cases. But for India, I think when you are living in a society, you want to be part of the society, so you have to follow the code of conduct or the guideline which society says. So obviously, if you go against the society, they will not accept you. So that is why it is detrimental to the society, because you are living in the society. So otherwise, what you can do, you can simply reject the society, that I don't care. And this coolness is, I think, somewhere is that I don't care about the marriage institution which is given by the society, because it is like it puts me into a legal legal restrictions and etc. And then if I have to get away from this partner, I have to file the divorce and go to the legal procedure and everything. I don't care and I don't want to do it. So if you want to be in the society, you have to accept the society the way it is, and you want to bring some changes, then you have to take the consent. The way some rare couple does, that they involve their parents for the live-in relationship. They say, hey, we are doing it. So that's how you can have the society accepting it. See, government making it legal for you to be in a relationship is not making any difference, what I believe. It's just giving them some kind of legal freedom, that okay, I can be in this setup, so cops cannot catch me, or take me behind the bars, because it is legal. That's all. Otherwise, they are in a secret thing. So what the point I was trying to make for Venkatesh is that if you are in a society, you kind of have to go through, or obey to the rules or the regulation. Let's say the marriage. So you have to kind of go for it. You have to keep them happy, because it's a society. Otherwise, you simply get away from the society. Then it's not even a question altogether, because you just separated yourself, detached yourself from the society, and you just want to be with your partner. That's all. Nothing matters to you.
Okay, so a lot of points made here by Vishal. I just want to touch a couple of things before I move on to the next person. So, first of all, there's this question of like, why do people get into live-in relationships? I think Vishal made the point that it's because somehow it comes out as cool. And I'd like to speak from some personal experience here. I don't know how many of you guys have been in live-in relationships before. And as somebody who has been in that, like, I can tell you that it's not about cool. Sometimes it's about like convenience, because like you're in a relationship with this person, and you're young enough that you're not thinking about marriage. Neither, for example, if two people are in a live-in relationship, and they have not yet decided what they want to do in life, what they want to do for the rest of their life, or like who they want to spend the rest of their life with, but you're still in a relationship with somebody, and you're not sure whether it's going to be a forever thing between you guys. So and when you're living alone, there are like you have like additional expenses, something like that. But if you can share those expenses, it makes sense to move in. So sometimes it's a matter of convenience. And then the second point that I wanted to talk about is like the question of like, I think the what Vishal you were talking about was basically a distinction between your personal freedom and also your duties towards society. I think you were talking about that. So I think it can actually be like a debate in itself. Whether what wins, and what is the proportion in which people need to prioritize personal freedom versus like their responsibilities to society. I do want to hear more thoughts on that. But I think yeah, that's the argument that I think Venkatesh was asking for. Like basically, what does it matter when two independent people are doing anything with themselves? And so Vishal, I think, is making the point that there is certain duties towards society which you may not fulfill if you be in the live-in relationships. So yeah, I just wanted to mention those two things. And yeah, I think next we can move on to Shreya. I think there are two Shreyas. Are they same? Are you same, or like two different accounts? Okay, Shreya, go ahead.
Okay. I completely agree with Vishal. Also, adding to this thing, I think one point is enough, because over here, the live-in relation is not only detrimental to society but also to the person who are there staying. Because for example, like these days, live-in relationship is so common, more common than we are thinking. For example, like the college students especially, they are, I think, aged 18 or 19. So they stay away from their parents, they go to some college in other country or other states, and they, whatever, they have their relationship, and they move in together, and there is where there is where risk comes in. Like for they might spoil their life because they might you never know, because of the hormones. Obviously that's the period where the hormones are really fluctuating and you think it is love but it is not. So it's basically a person, the girl might conceive or something. The life may be spoiled, you never know. That's a huge risk that comes along with live-in relationship. Again, the hate for marriage, yes, definitely. Even if you're staying in a live-in relationship which is for like 1 year, 2 year, it's going good, it's going good. Third year, it's going good. Fourth year, oh my god, something happens and the person doesn't only feels like, because the attachment has grown so much that sometimes some people don't even know if there's a difference, the difference between attachment and love. The attachment has grown so much that now you cannot be separate, and now if you're separate you do not want to fall in love again, and the age is already rushing so fast. You don't know if you want to marry, if you want to marry, if you want to fall in love. You're all into pieces. Again, delay also, this live-in relationship also delays, like not every time, again sometimes delays the marriage. And if the marriage is delayed, like maybe you're 29, 30, 31, it only leads to a delaying marriage, which also, if you plan to have a baby in future, it again risks that point as well. And also using the rights, like okay, they have the right to stay in a live-in relationship. Some people don't use their rights properly, they misutilize their rights, and that's where it goes wrong. So basically live-in relationship is seriously detrimental, not only to the society but also to the person. And as Vishal already mentioned, that marriage, it's it's how you can get accepted to the society, and this is so true. If you're living in a relationship for like 10 years or so, you don't have a kid, you really need to organize your life, right? So you have to marry one or the other way. You cannot stay without marrying for your life, like that's like little difficult, right? So you have to marry anyway, so that's how society will accept you. Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
Yeah, Shreya, just one thing. Like, I think, like for example, like live-in relationships are very common in other societies as well. Like where there is marriage. Like for example, if you go to the U.S., right? Like they have a like very high prevalence of live-in relationships, but that they also emphasize on marriage as well. Like like a lot of people want to get married with the person they love. So isn't it is I mean you're talking about all those points, right? Like this the that these like for example unwanted pregnancies can happen, and maybe like the first second 2 years are great, and then the third year something happens. I mean, I just want to ask you, like if let's say that you're with somebody and then you have a Yashwant, can you please mute yourself? I think there's a lot of noise coming from your end. um, so let's say that you're with somebody, this person, there are two scenarios. One scenario, you are married with them, and then the other scenario is that like you're in a live-in relationship with them. And in both of those scenarios, like the first 2 years are great, the third year something happens and you don't like this person anymore, and you want to get away from this person because maybe he's violent or something like that. Maybe you find out something about this person that you wouldn't have known before. In that situation, would it be better for you to be married with this person and be unable to get out of it, or would it be better that you got to know about this before you got married with this person?
First thing, when it comes to a live-in relationship, I am because we are in India, so I was just focusing on India, not to the Western countries or any other countries. So I was only talking about India, and India is a place where I am not sure if live-in relationship is really cool or nice idea. Second thing, you never know a person, right? Even if you marry a person, there's always a 1% chance that the person can turn out to be someone else, and maybe the person is changing. Be it a live-in relationship, the person can again change, right? Even after 2 years or so, we cannot guarantee that.
Yeah.
But still, with marriage comes responsibility. With marriage comes everything. With marriage comes two families together. I think there are many ways a marriage can be saved, but live-in relationship, once something happens, you're gone. Like the person says, okay, I'm gonna leave, and there's that. So yeah, I think with marriage things can be managed, even if it's in a risk of, or in a verge to break. It can be manageable, it can be good, but with live-in you just move on.
Right. Okay. I just want to make one more point before I let Vishal take over. So, So there's one more thing which needs to be brought into this discussion, which is the rate of people living in unfulfilled, unhappy marriages. There's so many people out there who are living in marriages which are, they're not happy. First of all, they don't like the person they're with. They're kind of stuck, and it's really like complicated for them to get out of the situation, especially in an arranged marriage where there is family involved, and there's going to be a lot of like backlash and stigma and people trying to stop you and things like that. So there are a lot of people who are just unhappy, and sometimes they're kind of stuck. They're in a worse position than they would be if they were single and feeling lonely or unhappy, because now they can't even pursue another relationship. So they're kind of stuck. So I just wanted to make that point. That is like a thing to consider as well, because like if you're in a live-in relationship in that situation, you could probably get out more easily. So it's easier, you can make a point that it's easier to get out of bad relationships if you're in a live-in prior to getting married.
But just a second, the live-in relationship will and have a higher chances that obviously to lead to marriage or something. But one or the other day you have to marry. You cannot always stay in the live-in relationship. Maybe like something might happen, so I can just leave. You cannot do that, right? So
Yeah.
marriage has to happen, and that's what.
So-
I'm so
so-
sorry. I'm not like personally experienced ever this live-in relationship, but I really don't know how to argue more.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to like raise that point. Obviously, like I'm not arguing, like this is not a marriage versus live-in relationship debate.
Yeah, I get that.
Obviously,
Sorry.
like there are people who are in live-in relationship who eventually get married, and that's actually the norm if you look at the United States or something like that. But yeah, I think Vishal, go ahead, please.
Okay, this turned a little interesting. That why is that so necessary that the live-in relationship has to lead to a marriage? Because we were saying that that the live-in relationship is detrimental to the society, because it is something that a new institution we want to form or we want to launch by practicing it. Because first of all, we already copied it. This particular concept of the live-in relationship, we already copied. Now we are practicing it so we can reach that level of the maturity. But in order to reach that level of maturity, is it necessary that leads to the marriage? Because marriage is again it is the legal thing and the societal thing, and it is a regional the regional rule as well, that all the religion, if you pick up from anywhere, the concept of the marriage is almost mirrored to each other, even if it has come from the philosopher or their saints or the prophet, whatever it is. It is 99%. I see it is being mirrored, that you have certain rules and regulation given to the couple, that you will do so and so duties and the responsibility, which are already there in the relationship as well, the live-in relationship as well. So, given a scenario by Raghav that something happens in both the situation, so I think the steps will be taken by the other partner who's being, let's say, exploited or into a domestic violence or anything as such. Steps will be same in both the situation, even if it is a marriage or a live-in relationship. That partner will take the same step. That if you being abusive to me, or if you being kind of violent on me, physical violence or whatsoever it is, I will take the same step, even if it is a marriage or a live-in relationship. That doesn't matter. I will have to get the law and order in place, or I will have to get my friends and family that, hey, this person is being toxic to me. Please help me get out this person. So these steps will follow as same as it is in the marriage. But in marriage, I would say the chances are more to settle down, because you're already into a kind of a societal and the legal bond. So your family, friends, and the counselor, psychologist, they will all try to help you to understand the marriage better. In a relationship, live-in relationship, it's very simple, because the coolness about the live-in relationship is that you can anytime get away, because you were just experimenting, you were testing each other, and the test failed. It's very convenient in the live-in relationship, and that's why when you live by your own convenient, it is not the relationship or a bond or any kind of association, because marriage is an association no matter what, you have to help each other, support each other, and grow together. It is not that one person is growing, other is not growing. Then, if it is not happening, in this case also, the marriage is also not successful. If only one person is growing, other is not growing. Only one person is getting matured emotionally and physically and everything, but the other person is just there where this person was at the time of the marriage. So again, this is also not working. So I think the relationship is an association. It is not experimenting, because of course you have to keep every day on a based on your experiences, you will experiment it, you will become conscious about certain things, and then you will mature, right? So I think it is almost the same for both, but marriage makes you a little more precise or more persistent about keeping this association or this institute of marriage more strong and hold the fort. It is about that. And
Okay.
in live-in relationship, it's like, okay, fine, I was experimenting, test failed, no problem. We are not good for each other, we are not compatible, fine, whatever it is.
So you lack the
You live
persistence,
your
you're
life.
saying.
Yeah, go ahead, Rav.
No, you're saying that in a live-in relationship you lack the persistence and the maturity required to persist through struggles and go through the cycles of like ups and downs, because like in marriage, like because you committed yourself to this person, if there are downs, you will still like fight through it, and you'll work towards like getting to the highs again of the relationship.
Yeah, you just reminded me one point which you earlier raised. So in that, I just wanted to point out, I forgot. So what happens in live-in relationship, that you do not have that marriage institution. So when you go out, you are bound to, or you tend to get distracted, because distraction is attraction is everywhere. But this marriage thing, it always keep reminding you that, hey, you have somebody already in your life. But this a live-in relationship is something, hey, you have somebody, but it is on test and experimental phase. It's going to some phase. And what if you find somebody better than this person who's sitting at home in live-in relationship, and you say, hey, you know what, I found somebody else which is better than you. So what happens? You start comparing this person, and besides, you start living a different relationship with this person. So you started getting into a new experiment, whereas you already into one experiment.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
you tend to just leave away that person and say, hey, it's not working with you anymore, because I think I found somebody better than you. And
Yeah.
when it comes to human, you always have somebody better than you. It is not nobody's perfect. So marriage puts you in a situation where, hey, you know what, we are giving you this partner, and you have to have this association working for lifelong, because getting away from this partner or for your convenience is not really viable, because if you go to the another person, the same thing will again happen. So why not
Yeah.
only try with one person?
Got it.
Is
Okay,
that
I
sometimes-
see Venkatesh has wanted to jump the queue. So actually, yeah, Venkatesh, please go ahead. Yeah, before you drop off. Venkatesh, you're on mute.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, my apologies to everyone for jumping the queue. It's I just had planned till about 12:15 or so that's why I'm asking for this special exemption. Just a couple of points I wanted to make. One is that for us to recognize the nature of Indian society, there's a lot of I wouldn't want us to glorify Indian society or the rules that Indian society has made us live by. Historically, Indian communities and Indian society has been quite oppressive. I've seen awful marriages that are absolutely awful, where one of the partners has hung in the marriage simply because they did not have a choice. They are, right? So forced to take care of somebody with very bad illnesses or mental illnesses, a variety of situations, being harassed for dowry, in some cases being driven to suicide. So when we say that people must live by society's rules, this is not a particularly nice society that we live in. At least historically, it is an extremely oppressive society, where women in particular were being oppressed not only by their husbands but by their mother-in-law, a whole range of relatives and in-law among the in-laws. So this is not a very good society that we have lived in. What Indian society needs more than anything else is not more conformity, right? More people sticking to the rules, but people willing to break the rules and willing to move our society more towards a more enlightened state, towards a greater recognition of individual rights. That's one very important thing. And these people who are willing to get into live-in relationships, they are taking a risk, and in order, mainly for their own selfish reasons, of course, and I won't deny that, but indirectly they are also helping to push our society in a more open, more liberal direction. That's one point I wanted to make. And the other is that, speaking from my own personal experience, people by and large, tend to stay within their region, within their community in India. Most of what they're familiar with really is, the rules of their own community, their own language, their own religion, and so on. Love is the one thing that appears to be capable of breaking through those barriers. People who would never think of having a close friendship with someone from a different religion or maybe a different region, once they fall in love, they appear to be willing to take almost any risk. Like most of us, I've known many intercaste, interregional marriages, and the people involved in those relationships have had to take a lot of risks and incurred a lot of displeasure from their parents and society to accomplish their goals. And I have nothing but respect, not just for those individuals, but for love itself. It must be wonderful to have a feeling like that, which gives you, almost like a devil's courage, right? You're willing to do anything in order to get what you want. So my respect for love is very, very high. And a live-in relationship, yes, there are disadvantages, but a live-in relationship ultimately is an expression of two people in love who are willing to take some risks to achieve the consummation of that love. So that is yet another reason for me to be supporting live-in relationships. Thank you all very much. I think many more interesting points are going to come, which unfortunately I have to miss. But as always, it's a pleasure to meet all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Venkatesh.
I think to the Venkatesh point, it is the live-in relationship is to be risk-free, not to take a risk. That the partners, they want to be risk-free for the future, that they don't fall into any kind of trouble. So they want to first get into live-in relationship, see how we work, is the association working or not, and then be a risk-free. So I
think I will drop off now. Otherwise, who knows? I might even change my mind. Thanks, Vishal and everyone.
Okay, cool.
Bye.
Thanks, Venkatesh.
Bye.
Yeah. All right. I think Vishal, did you have more to say, or do you want to pass it on to Shreya?
No, just on a Venkatesh point, he was saying that they are willing to take risks. So in my understanding of logic, I think it is to be risk-free. So let's try let's do the test and experiment.
Got it.
So we don't fall into risk. That's why we do the test, right? That even the vaccination, we can't just we can't just form a formula of the vaccination and just start injecting people. First, we want to do test and experiment. So it is risk-free. That's what I was trying to make the point.
Okay. Actually, I do want to make one more point before I pass it on to Shreya. So there's one other point which I think it's very, very less talked about in Indian society, which is sexual compatibility. This is not something that you say. You'll get to know, even if you just get to know a person outside. For example, you know somebody for 2 or 3 years, but you've never really been in a sexual relationship with this person. You don't know whether it will actually be great for these two people to be in a marriage, because we tend to have our own ways of being in a sexual relationship, and there are so many people out there. Actually, they say that they love their husband, but they're not really, not just their husband, but they love their spouse, but they're not attracted to them. They feel like they're living with a lot of unfulfilled sexual desires because their husband or wives do not satisfy them in a sexual way, and it's not natural for them to do it in the ways that people want. And a lot of people don't really understand this possibility that you could love somebody but you feel unfulfilled with them. And live-in relationship kind of negates that, because you get to have it's almost like a trial period where you get to see these things which you may have to live with in a married life, which you may not get to if you do not live in a live-in relationship. So I just wanted to make that one point. Yeah, Shreya, please go ahead. I think Shreya Bhatt, right?
Yes, yes. So I have like a couple of points. Like I have like the mixed combination of all the points that both Shreya, Vishal, and the person who spoke like right now. So I guess it's I guess like more oriented towards the live-in relationship, because like although like you might see your closest friend, suppose it is quite like influenced with social media, like for example your friend might be in a live-in relationship and you would have gone to their place and you would have seen how they have bonded, so you feel that okay, I have seen this as an inspiration. So usually it is quite inspired from even your closest friends and family, and even though they have like influence, not like much influence on through other sources, their friends would have been kept on talking, so it creates kind of a like fake imagination in front of them, saying that okay, because they have told it, now she would have told on experience. So they will have that not complete information, but they will have that okay, if anything goes wrong, my friend will be there, she will know how to handle, or she can help me out. So based on that kind of notion, it can be taken into account. So that is one point. And one more point that one of the speaker mentioned, so they told asking permission from parents that they are doing live-in. So I guess that one, I think it is very valid, like because if we can tell that okay, so and so partner is there, because yeah, in Indian society, if we say that we are going to stay in a live-in relationship, obviously it will be like okay, they objected. But then if you give a surety saying that okay, I want to do a live-in and I want to experiment and tell you that if suppose this works, I will tell you within so and so range or something, and it will be like fine, like like I will be able to understand whether it is he's fit for me or not. Also, to add to the same point is, always have seen that like marriage is not about two people, but how the marriage related people are towards that marriage. It's the bonding of the families rather than the people involved in the marriage. That is what I feel, because most of the time there will be not pressure, they will the partners who will be living together will not have completely like sometimes no direction, like Raghav like mentioned previously, like like they will be lost sometimes and they will be having thoughts. So it will be like partial kind of force exerted from the families, basically. Oh, you have lived now and why don't you try to get married? But again, it's up to personal preference of those couple who are living together, and they should not be influenced based on the family. So it's more about how families accept those partners and how they take it forward. Then one more point to this adding itself, like as that time Shreya mentioned, like she told that if you are staying for a longer time, like for example like 10 years, 14 years, 15 years, in this context, let me just tell you about the Western culture, because Indian culture I've not seen, but in Western culture, what I've seen is some people, they stay for live-in and they like almost have like 12, 10 years of, live-in, and they first try to incorporate parenthood, and then they'll see how they can manage the child and then get married also, because there are situations like that, like they try to switch the cycle, and then again it is up to their personal preferences. But if again family tells that okay, you are getting into parenthood and then you're you want to not get married or something, again they should not be influenced based on the family or the society norms like that. So it's basically on and on, it's very subjective, because sometimes if you say like it is a advantage, yes, there are more disadvantages as well, but there are these few factors, like where you say that this is good or not. And one more last point to add is like understanding the psychology. Like for example, there will be a person who is an introvert in the couple and one will be an extrovert. They wouldn't have been influenced a lot. Like they want their partner to be like influential kind of partner, so that like I guess Vishal mentioned that in a couple they should motivate each other, right? So if suppose they are an introvert and they still want to feel like I want to get out and be myself or something. So in relationship also we find, but sometimes what will happen is the rights and the domination happens, and they'll be like, they can be criticized at the same time. So understanding that psychology, how they getting motivated enough, is the kind of thing that we can see in Levin, are like, more often and more took it in a lighter tone rather than like a dominating kind of a tone. So yeah, these were my few points. You
Thanks,
can just correct me if or other perspectives that you have.
Yeah, I think the only thing I want to say is that you mentioned dominating. So I think you mentioned it in a negative context, but there are some people who actually prefer that kind of a dominating nature from their partners, because like if they are very introverted or something like that, maybe they don't know what is good for them, what is right for them. So they want a partner who's dominating enough to sort of like give them direction. So it can also be like something that people want. There are actually a lot of people who will want a more dominating partner because they're very tired of their partners being very like not
casual,
not very, like they're very submissive. They'll do anything that anybody tells them. They're not really assertive towards themselves, or like they're not really taking responsibility, taking charge of the situation. I think I can maybe you can argue with this, but like I would say that a lot of women prefer a partner who is somewhat dominating. They take control of the situation. This is a preference that I've seen, at least, that a lot of women prefer this. But yeah, I just want to make sure that the word dominating is not always a negative context. There are people who prefer that as well. But yeah, I think Vaibhav wants to say something. Yeah, Vaibhav, go ahead.
Yeah. Hello everyone. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. So coming with the first I would like to define the living. So basically, what is the point of living? Before starting anything, let me clear my position. So I'm against the living. Okay. Then talking about the living, so there could be two definitions of living. So let's say two people who want to understand each other better, who want to know each other better and their habits and everything, like their daily lifestyle and what do they do like throughout, let's say, their daily life. Okay. And second perspective could be, in the first perspective, of course, the objective could be to land onto the marriage after getting to know each other for some time. And the second perspective would be, let's say, two people who don't want to give commitment to each other and who are really afraid of marriage. So those could be the 2 point of views for living. Okay. And if we talk about the live-in, which is more common in the West or let's say European countries, so of course still the divorce rates are more in the West. So let's say if you go onto the divorce.com, we will get the stats that the divorce rate in India is lowest, which is 0.1 amongst the 1,000 people, as compared to the West, which is way too higher. Okay. Now, of course, the divorce in India could be an outcome of family pressure as well. So basically, the reason for which the divorce rate is low in India could be because of the family pressure. And but still, one stat which I couldn't come up with, I want to know, is the percentage of live-in turning out into a marriage in West, or let's say globally, and the percentage of those marriages getting divorced or in the long-term marriage. So in that way, maybe we can come up to a conclusion like how live-in is helpful for long-term marriage. Okay, so that is the stats I don't have right now. Then coming to the point Raghav said about the emotional intimacy, or let's say physical intimacy, which gets fulfilled in live-in relationship. So let's say two people come into a live-in relationship, and if one of the partner is cheating, or let's say set their heart or someone else after a couple of years, that is more traumatizing than the emotional and physical needs not getting fulfilled at a specific age, according to them. Okay. Then Raghu also said that you can get out of it so easily. Let's say if you're in a living relationship and you're not satisfied with your partner due to any reasons. So again, if we compare it with the marriage, So when it comes to marriage, your perspective is totally different. Basically, you see your partner with a different perspective. You take the whole accountability, you take the whole responsibility. But again, in the living relationship, it's very easy to part your ways. So basically, it could be a scenario in which some guy or let's say some girl is just hanging out with someone and just trying to fulfill her or his emotional or physical needs, okay, and just getting out of it pretty easily because that's pretty easy. So that is also a reason. And again, Vishal also said, Vishal defined marriage basically as a sacred or legal or societal vow which we take. But what do you think if there wouldn't be any marriage, if ancestor wouldn't introduce the term as marriage, would we still live in a long-term relationship with someone? So let's say ancestor would come up with a concept called live-in, and we are basically in a living relationship. What do you think? Will we be able to stay with someone for a long period of time? Of course not, because we are humans. Again, if we look at other living beings as well, so again, there is no such thing as you are committed to just one person or you are committed to one guy. So basically, marriage introduces what we can say, a boundary which you respect, and what we can say is even if you get attracted to someone, still you know you are being married to someone, then you shouldn't cross your limits. So that is my counter to living. And one more thing which I want to say is, so basically, if you stay in a living relationship for 3-4 years, then you break up and you get married with someone else, then how it is different from breaking your first marriage and getting married for the second time, because the emotional roller coaster which you're going through will be the same in both the cases. Okay, so in conclusion, I would like to say is we can still stay in a relationship, we can explore each other, we can hang out, we can even fulfill the physical needs and emotional needs by going on some trips or something. But yeah, there are other ways to explore a bond with someone. So yeah, in conclusion, I'm against it. Yeah, Raja,
Yeah,
if you
Vaibhav,
have anything
just
to counter?
one thing.
Yeah.
Um, so, like you're saying that like we can do everything, that's fine, but this living relationship is not needed or not great or whatever. I just want to know
Yeah,
like
the concept. Yeah.
what is the fundamental distinction between those two then? Like for example, a scenario where
Mhm.
a couple are like they're hanging out on a daily basis, they're getting to know each other, they have like like emotional and physical intimacy, all these things are there,
Mhm.
but they're not staying together. That's one scenario. This other scenario is the same thing. They have all the same things, but they're living together. What is the fundamental
Okay.
distinction there? What is the contention here?
Okay, so the distinction is when you come into a relationship, live-in relationship. So if you're coming with an objective that is somehow it will turn into a marriage, then of course it will be traumatizing if those two people breaks up. But if you are in a relationship, and there could be two possibilities. Of course, you could break up. Of course, you could end up in a long-term relationship. So if both the parties are coming with the same intention that we are coming in a relationship with no objective of marriage or with no outcomes, so let's say. So of course it will be less traumatizing if those two people break up each other. But yeah, that is the main distinction. So basically, if you're a relationship, so breakup would hurt the most as compared to in a living relationship if they have the objective of getting married after exploring each other. So even if the single partner has some objectives like that out of those two.
Okay, but I personally feel like that is a very weak argument because like obviously
Okay.
breakups also hurt. I've seen so many people who not in a live-in relationship but they break up and it still hurts them a lot. And either way, like maybe it could be right that like they're more traumatized if they're in a live-in relationship. Maybe that is the case, but what is those two people are choosing that option. They're aware of the risk and they're choosing the option. What is it like to anybody else to say this way or that way, right? They're making a informed decision about their risk taking, and they're getting into it with knowledge of the consequences. So who does it bother if they are the only people who are getting affected?
See, as long as they are basically not causing any trouble to the society, not causing trouble to each other, and basically they are coming up with a mature mindset that we are not expecting anything. Let's say, like we are not expecting any compulsion for marriage after coming into a live-in relationship. We are just exploring things. As long as they're coming up with this mindset, I think it can work. So yeah.
Okay.
But if people are not mature enough, to about a live-in relationship and expecting a marriage or something out of that, then it will be what we could say.
But Vaibhav, like
Yeah,
I
a
have a
traumatizing
problem.
experience.
I have a problem
Yeah.
with this concept that you have to prevent people from going through like adversarial situations or like potentially traumatizing situations, because like if you keep like protecting people from making poor choices in their life, they never have the means to become more mature. You're right that they're not mature and they're suffering because of it, but without that suffering they cannot be more mature. So maybe you could make the point that like everybody should be encouraged to be in living relationships so that they can get more maturity, just from either they make the right choices and they win out of the situation, or they make poor choices and suffer, and as a consequence they grow more mature, right?
Correct.
So I feel like I've changed your mind about like live-in relationships now.
Yeah, somewhat.
Which is good, because like I think for all of us, like when we come here we have a certain idea about whatever we're talking about, and then when we discuss and we see the other points, we tend to like reflect on it, so which is a really good outcome. So yeah, Vishal, I think you raised your hand. I actually have one more thing before I hand off. Like it's 12:30 right now. I think we will try to wrap it up in the next 10 minutes. Because I think there's a really engaging discussion, and I feel like some of you guys haven't had much to say. So let's take it up to 12:40 and then we can drop off. But yeah, Vishal, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So I will also conclude here, but in the conclusion, I will take points from Vaibhav and Shreya earlier to that, and also Venkatesh. So first to Vaibhav's point, he was talking about the ancestor who decided the marriage thing, or any religious leader who invented the religion and then they invented the marriage institution. So I have a very strong understanding on this marriage institution, that it has been decided based on the facts and the experiences. Because earlier the thinking used to happen, and on nowadays thinking is happening, but on a very low level. We are not, there are very less groups or people who are sitting and thinking through a certain aspect of the society. So earlier we were building the society, we were on the verge of making something. So these people have experimented and looked at the facts and the figures, and then they decided that the marriage is the right thing to do. Even you go for any religion, they have this thing as one of the conduct for their society to follow. So I'll just quote a very small short story that in US a long time back, I can give the reference later from where I picked it up, that a long time back in 1980s, there was an American who married 9 times, which means he divorced 8 times. And what really happened, the phenomena about getting married 9 times, he realized that on the 9th occasion when he got married to the woman, both of them realized that was his first wife. He almost forgot that this woman, actually he again got remarried after the 8 marriages. So what really happens is, again and again, when you go into a different partner, you get the same kind of person, because at the end, we as a human is male and female. You need to understand the feminine quality and the masculine quality. Since Shreya talked about psychology, and I also belong to the psychology field, so I will quote one thing from the Sigmund Freud, that she talked about understanding the psychology of the other person. And also Raghav said that we get attracted with some dominating factors about the partner. So what really happens as per psychology, that you get attracted with somebody's personality, which is actually dominating in some factor and some quality or the characteristic. But that is the same quality which will make you suffer later when you realize it and when you experience it. Let's say somebody has an attitude of talking arrogantly to the people who are lower in authority, and you get attracted to that person. We tend to get attracted to the powerful people, or people who has a very authoritative personality. We get attracted, and that person, since you are new to the person, will be very polite and very good in terms of behaving with you. But later, after 3 to 6 months, as per psychology, within 3 months, a person the person's second or third layer will come out, which he was hiding or she was hiding, and then the person will start treating you the way he was treating everyone else, and then the same quality which attracted you will now put you into the suffering, because now the person is treating you in the same authoritative way, the way he was treating others, and you got impressed with this person, right? So this will keep happening. This is part of life. Psychology keep changing, we keep changing, situation make us change the experiences, right? So these things will happen, and the association is very important. That is why this marriage thing has been concluded, that this is the right thing for human, not to keep distracting yourself. As Raghav pointed out something on getting fulfillment of your sexual desires and everything. This happens in people who have those desires. Let's say you will always get attracted to somebody who's attractive. You will not get attracted to somebody who's not, let's say, not good looking or a fit person. Let's be very honest here. We all get attracted to the people who are good looking. And for good looking, we all understand what are the physical attributes we actually require, right? So this will keep happening. Balancing out in terms of psychology, what Shreya has mentioned, we have to keep balancing our psychology. And when we do this, so we understand other person's psychology. And this association is the marriage thing, when you constantly understanding, supporting, motivating the other partner. Not necessarily that you do something for your convenience to be in a live-in relationship. Live-in relationship is completely a risk-free environment and a very convenient environment where you simply walk out. Again, I would repeat the same thing. And so that's why the marriage thing is something put you in a situation that, hey, this is what you have, and please have the longer association with this person only, because there is no point going out somewhere else. This is what the ancestor, or let's say the previous philosopher or the religious, the people who decided that this is the thing. Otherwise, they could have invented the live-in relationship as well. People, I believe, earlier they thought through deeply into these matters, and that's why they concluded it. And I'm not going by them completely that we have to follow what the ancestor has decided. But yes, Western people, what they do is, it's their concept, their conditioning,
Vishal,
and their
I just wanna
we
make-
can copy it. Copying is very easy, but
Vishal,
knowing the entire template is
Yeah,
quite.
I think we're running out of time.
You know,
I would like to
we
let
can
others speak as well. Yeah, thanks, Vishal. Yeah, Vaibhav.
Oh, sorry, by mistake I raised my hand.
Okay, Yashwant, yeah. Yashwant, you're on mute.
Sorry guys, you can proceed. I'm outside.
Yeah. Wait, what? Anyway,
I forgot to raise my hand. You can just
okay, you don't have anything to say. Okay, fine. Arun.
Yeah, thanks, Ravi. Thanks, everyone. I think it was also very eye-opening for me to get to hear all these points. Maybe some points that I had is one thing about there was a point about this not being from India and being from US. So maybe there I a little bit disagree, because we shouldn't go with something just solely based on whether it's from India or not, because in the past there have been some practices that have maybe originated from the same country, but we have understood that it's not a healthy thing, and there are reformers who have worked on it, and now we don't follow. So we have to look at the merits of it as well. And similarly, the argument about religious leader is also something that I'm a little bit skeptical about, because it seems to be something like we are agreeing with something more because it was handed down from authority. I feel that we should be even more skeptical, and we should probe a little bit more, especially when it comes from authority. And but the point on people being young and they might not make the right decision, that sounded very reasonable to me. And I think that's where maybe we can make qualify it a bit by saying that, okay, we know that there is live-in relationship that is healthier in certain aspects, and we know where it can maybe not lead to good choices. So we can create some awareness around it, I think when I check online, I also see that, of course, live-in relationships below a certain age is not considered legal. So something of that sort, can really help as well. And on the point of being it risk-free, maybe I think it's not entirely risk-free, because these two people, they are defying what is normally considered conventional, and they know the repercussions of it. They'll not enjoy any legal rights and so on, and they take the decision. So that involves some courage, and that has a risk in those aspects. So overall, I support that this. I don't think this will be any detrimental to society, and the scale of or the measure of it should be considered whether the two individuals are consenting or not. If they are consenting and it's not harmful to the society, then I don't see a reason why anyone should be against it.
Okay, thanks. Thanks a lot, Arun. Yeah, Shreya Jain.
I would like to point out a thing that Shreya told before, that people stay in live-in relationship for 10 years and then they plan a baby, and then they again decide if they can tackle with the baby properly and then get married. Is it something like of course, if you're staying for maybe 10 years, you should be knowing the other person by then. You shouldn't be waiting for the baby and the baby will come and if you guys can tackle. Obviously, the couple has to tackle the baby and in a proper way. They have to raise the child in a proper way, so the child does not have any psychological effect on on them. And also, what if they are not able to tackle the child? Like, if they are planning to bear a child, they should have the responsibility to grow up the child. They cannot then decide if they should be marrying or not, and by the time they have a child, they should be married at least. And of course, it's not like a series like Friends, where they have a life like Monica Chandler and then later they have a life like Rachel and Ross.
Okay. Not
So
everybody knows
I
who those are,
then
but yeah, Shreya, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, in what my perspective I meant is, like, when they start their parenthood, they will understand, like, that time Raghav mentioned, like, they want to know how the budget and all is planned, so they will know what approximation, like, before the baby, at least they would have planned, like, financially how they should grow, how they should be, empathetic towards it, and how they should do their parenthood. So then based on that, I guess it's up to how the shared responsibilities go by. So it's like, even though it is lived in, so they will have that no fear, even though, yes, in this matter, relationship has a little priority for living. But I feel that sometimes parenthood comes like sometimes after the marriage, right? So, or before, unexpectedly. But again, it's up to the individuals whether they want to marry or not, again depending on their personal preference. So it's completely like subjective, like it depends. It's just not the couple, but it's also related to the other people who are also influencing the couple. That is what I mean to say.
Yeah, this is great, guys. Actually, I want to close it here. I just want to make a couple of announcements. First of all, I'm really sorry about the delay today. My parents were been out for a week and they just came here, and then right at the time they came, so I had to attend to them. But I was thinking that maybe we can actually do this in Clubhouse. Have you guys heard of Clubhouse?
Yes.
Has anybody has experience with managing or organizing a Clubhouse, or because I want to know if this would work better on Clubhouse, because people can jump in and then they can start discussing things, right?
Yeah.
This also could work, or even Twitter has Spaces. I've not used personally both of them, but yeah, I guess you will get a lot more diverse points from
Yeah,
this
I
topic.
think we can actually engage more people who just happen to run into those Clubhouse groups, because it's actually designed for this kind of a thing. So I want to explore that. Maybe starting next week we'll have it there. But yeah, I think we're past the time that we set for ourselves. Why don't we just close it here? And in case somebody wants to say something, the very last words or something, then yeah, please go ahead. But I think if you guys are done, then we can drop off here. Thanks a lot for
Yeah,
joining
I think
us.
you can conclude, Raghav.
Yeah, thanks a lot for joining, guys. Let's maybe try to bring more people on board next time. And yeah, thanks a lot for joining. See you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.